My background is in architecture and landscape architecture, and I work in Rumble Studio Dreiseitel as a project manager for 5 years now. At the same time, I have my own personal research in topics of nature-based solutions and water-sensitive urban design. I am part of several cost actions, and I participate in Horizon 2020 proposals. And my focus is on food urbanism, restorative sustainability, circular city, compound weather events. All these topics directly relate to NBS, and this fact alone shows how interdisciplinary this field is. In this presentation, I will show 2 projects, one implemented one and one very large-scale master plan. These projects are developed by Rumble Studio Dreiseitel, and these projects are projects that my colleagues have done. I have not worked in none of these projects. However, they are really important projects to show what is possible in terms of large-scale infrastructure in a city, and topics of retrofitting that also Tom brought up in his presentation. The first project is Bisanamoke Park in Singapore. In Singapore, as it is known, there is a serious lack of water for the way that for people to live in the country, so they basically import water. And and the infrastructure is approached in a way to use all the water that falls in the land to create a really large-scale fountain that you can see, for example, in this graphic. There is a dam at the end of the Kalang River that keeps all the fresh water and recharges it back to the reservoir. So basically, the approach to the rivers of the city, they look at them as a resource of fresh water and less as living systems. As a result, the budget for renovating the rivers and the canals is separated between rivers and green spaces, and canal solutions are considered separate from the green space that surrounds them. That was a huge challenge for this project, because the canal used to be just a straight line of 20.7 kilometers. That was basically a barrier between the 2 communities. And with convincing the authorities to open the budget of the river together with the park is what brought forward this project, and this really interesting part that actually brought these communities together, that before there was no way to go from the one to the other. So basically, in Singapore, because of the climate, there is suddenly really extreme weather events, really peak flow events that happen in particular months and quite suddenly, which at the same time, together with the massive urbanization that happens because it's a small island and the density constantly increases, becomes even more extreme. And these are topics that are really dangerous. So there's a lot of safety considerations, and this is why the river connections are less thought as living systems, as I said, and more thought as barriers. So basically, changing this perspective of what the river can be and how the river can increase the conveyance capacity, the discussion was opened up by the office, and it was proven after sets of hydrological and hydraulic modeling that the new river can actually increase the capacity up to 40%. So basically, this is the new master plan, as you see here. The canal is just a straight line as it is everywhere in the city of Singapore, and suddenly it opens up. There's a cleansing biotope, and then we have an open living river system. So one really important topic that happened to achieve this is to actually prove to the local authorities that riverbank stabilization is possible. And what happened was an unprecedented study of 1 year to find all the necessary planting to achieve the different 12 types of bioengineering, soil bioengineering stabilization strategies. And there was a test ridge that was created in the park in order to prove this. And you can see, because of the vegetation of the tropical climate, how fast it goes from within 6 months, how great, how big the vegetation becomes. And you can see in 1 year, it's completely a ready river. So what is really another topic that's really interesting about this project was that it was developed in principles of circular city, in the sense that all the available material on side of the canal was reused to create topography, hills, and even like special art features. So basically, you see how different the park looks just within 4 years. And increasing the capacity. And at the same time, it's very safe because there are several sensors for flooding that you can see that directly when an event starts, they start to make sounds and people can come out really safely. It's all measured that you can, from any point of the park, you can come out within less than 5 minutes, because within a really short amount of time, you can have the situation that you see on the top. So basically, this already happened within the first 2 years of the park, opening the park. And it has happened several times since then, and it's always reported in the news to see how this, how the park actually can work like this. At the same time, this project has become a branding topic for the city of Singapore. And it's a symbol of pride, and the entire discussion of Singapore as the green city or the garden city country, etc. So of course, in order to make sure that there's the quality of the water is secure, there's a cleansing, a terrace biotope at the entrance of the canal, when the canal becomes a river, basically. And all the water that is cleansed is also used in this water playground and in other features. So at this, the park is really vibrant and biodiverse, and really important image for the city. It gave the opportunity for the Singaporeans to see for the first time flowing water and interact with it, because the Singaporeans up to that time used to have the only relationship they had to water was from the tap and also from the swimming pool. So this is a completely unique experience for the culture, the local culture. And what is fascinating is that without actually increasing any, without presenting any new wildlife, without introducing any new wildlife, the biodiversity increased by 30%. And within the first few years, there were already 66 species of wildflower, 59 species of birds, 22 species of dragonfly, and within 5 years of the project, there was the establishment of one family of otters. 5 or 7 members came to the park that were completely extinct from this area since the 70s. So this is incredibly significant ecologically. And as the ecologists in our group know, otter is one of the most important indicators of to prove that a healthy ecosystem is established. The second project that I would like to talk to you about is a project much larger in scale. This is an area of 20 square kilometers in the center of Copenhagen. So following the extreme 1,000-year event of cloudburst that happened in Copenhagen in the 2nd of July 2011, that was preceded by a 100-year event that happened in Copenhagen in August of 2010, and followed by another 100-year event that happened in Copenhagen in 2014, the city of Copenhagen brought together a group of planners, engineers, economists, citizens, utility providers, politicians, and investors in order to bring the topic of climate adaptation within the regulatory plan. In this project, the Rambo team of climate adaptation and urban hydrology of Denmark was included, but also Rambo Future Dry Cycle for topics of landscape. So basically in this project, in this project, there were developed two master plan variations, one that proved what needed to be done to avoid future distractions as a conventional approach, and one that was the blue-green infrastructure approach, and to analyze the data, prove that it's equally safe, prove that if it's more expensive or less, which solution is better in what criteria, and so on. This was a really important case study to be developed because what was proven is that the approach of the blue-green infrastructure was actually in implementation cost $200 million less, while if they chose to do nothing, this would result in 60 to 9 million a year from now until 2110. So basically, this has a lot to do with the investment of public money, apart from creating quality spaces. So according to the Blue-Green Infrastructure Master Plan, we have a series of different solutions to deal with water on the surface level. So of course, there are also sewers and there are also other systems, but this is a surface first approach. So depending on the area, the location, what is possible, what is needed for all the other topics of the city, for example, traffic, etc., what was developed was a series of solutions that were categorized in these 8 categories of park, when there's green space and inundation can happen and natural infiltration. Plaza, where there would be more focus in retention or detention with lower hardscape areas. The street that has the new cloudburst profile that is proposed in order to have a deeper level at the center so the cars and the people can move safely at the edges. So basically, at least there's no risk, because flooding will happen. At least there's no risk in human lives. The green street that has the cloudburst profile but also has green spaces in it, green pockets to increase infiltration and permeability. The urban canal streets, this is in areas that are quite dense and there's no other solution. So basically, the entire street can become a canal while the people move safely at the sides. The urban creek street that has a line of bioswales that is connected, that's going to gather all the water in the zone and move forward, like conveyance, like move to the next location safely. The retention boulevards that are try to maximize, there are areas that have more space and not so much space for traffic is actually needed. So it's actually about maximizing the water that these areas can hold in order to avoid flooding downstream. And finally, the boulevards that people can drive at the center. The flooding can happen on the side, but protecting the edges for people to move. So one of these examples to show you, to see the green street, what this actually means. So you see the profile of the cloudburst street, that the deeper area is at the center, at the center, and then particularly for the green street at the green zone on the side. So these areas, the area for the cars is minimized, and there are more green spaces that of course increase in diversity and create interesting social life, but at the same time can hold a really high capacity of water and provide conveyance. In areas of parks, and this important, the St. Jorgens Lake, this really important part of the master plan, there was a design of how to decrease the level of the lake and also how to create an area, a huge retention area within the park next to it, while at the same time this becomes an important space ecologically with cleansing biotopes and wetlands. It becomes areas for social life with water playgrounds and areas for people in designated hardscapes. And without forgetting, there is the level of the expected flood is defined and the maximum retention capacity, so people can move within the site safely and leave if it's necessary without any problem with design bridges. So a typical retention boulevard can be like this. As you see, this is in everyday life. We increase the green space. This is for social events, and it's really space open and flexible for any type of activity. And then when the normal rain event comes, then the water safely is guided with infiltration to the groundwater reservoir and to the shore in a slow way. So the shore is not like overwhelmed from the beginning. And then in an extreme event, it can have a really high capacity to avoid issues downstream. So finally, as I already mentioned, the cost of doing nothing was measured, because what is expected is that by 2010, the harbor sea level in Copenhagen is expected to increase 1 meter. And actually, the engineers cannot estimate what is the real 1,000-year event, since the 100-year events and the 1,000-year events have happened 3 times within the past 5 years. So this is a really critical issue, because these estimations, the reason that the city functions was that a different 5-year event was considered than what it is now. So no one really knows how high the real event will be. So as a result, to avoid further distractions, the proposals have been, this proposal, the option 2 of the blue-green infrastructure, has been selected, which has created 300 ongoing projects in the city of Copenhagen in order to implement all the solutions. So this from me. Thank you for your time.